Mhm. So
Absolutely.
I guess, we're kind of moving on to the next thing because you guys pretty much answered all my questions before I even gave them. Um,
Yay.
I guess the how is where we want to go with this. You guys are like doing my job for me. It's fantastic. I love it.
Well, hey, we're
Well,
professional.
it's fun, man. I mean, that's what we said at the beginning. It's like, yeah, we're back off, man. I'm a scientist. But no, I mean, it's just fun. It's just fun sitting around and riffing. First
Oh, I
off,
know.
I mean, I feel like all the
We like
questions
to have
kind of
fun here.
answer themselves through just us hanging out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question, and this is probably more like an opinion or personal preference, but how do you feel a teacher should approach teaching older music? Should they dive right into it? Context? Is it helpful to use it as a teachable moment about music history? Is it something that you approach when you feel the student's ready for those skills? What do you think?
Again, I feel
That's a
that any
provocative question. You
any teacher
probably saw my
who works their way
eyebrows
to
shoot up
gold
as soon as you asked
should
that.
have like that database, and they should always be actively trying to grow that. If you ever have a teacher that claims they know everything about a particular style or genre, or even just claims they know everything in general, you have to find a new teacher, because there is an endless slew of fantastic music that's out there, and there's always new things to discover, and the further back you go, the more things you can find. And like I said, I think any teacher that's worth it should always be just adding to this catalog. It's why mine's never going to be finished. I have this database that's like 6 pages long just for guitar. And then there's another document that's 3 pages long for piano. And it's just always being added. There's new things getting put in there constantly. So yeah, I feel like it's constantly a process for every teacher that's out there, is to constantly be adding more resources, more materials, growing those lists, branching out those paths, and just constantly building. I always think of Squidward in that episode of SpongeBob when it finally when the glacier melts and it snows in Bikini Bottom, and they're having the big snowball fight, and Squidward is just building up this giant like fortress wall thing, and then okay, now this part's too low. Okay, now this part's too low. But now what if they flank my rear? And like next thing you know, he's in this just gigantic dome that he's untouchable, and then he's still getting hit with snow. Like it's the perfect analogy of a teacher's life, of constantly building those materials and resources and skills, but just never being done and still being pelted away by new challenges.
Gotcha. So Andy, I know you said your eyebrows raised as soon as I asked that question. I'm curious to see your response for this one.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I thought, I don't know, just like I feel weird answering a question. How should another teacher
Well, not necessarily how should
go
they, but
forward?
how do
And
you
because
in
first
your
and foremost, I feel like everybody, I mean, obviously any of us can attest to this, and any other teacher who's watching or listening to this can attest to, everyone's got their own learning style,
oh
every
yeah.
student. And to that end, we all have our own different teaching style too. You know what I mean? So the specific methods and the repertoire that a teacher draws from will vary greatly. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's really kind of a very tough question for me to answer in that form.
Right. I probably
I
should
can
rephrase that.
really
I guess
only
I meant more
say,
of a
I mean,
personal.
I can really only say what has worked for me, and that's that, on my end, I try and kind of put as much as I can into my repertoire,
Mhm.
to dig into at any given moment with the student. Just the more that I'm able to just turn on a dime and show someone something with confidence and with experience, the more effective it's going to be. So on my end, like, I feel like the best way to go about it is just to get, like Danton was saying, even make a list of like everything, point for point,
Mhm.
that covers what you want to cover with a student on an instrument.
Right.
But the other side of that, is the student, and that's kind of the wild card there. That could be, I mean, that could be anything. And I imagine that, there are those who would disagree with me here, and that's totally cool. But my whole formula, my entire formula for for teaching revolves around keeping things interesting and fun so that the students practice. Like, if practicing is going to make someone miserable, they're not going to do it. They're not going to practice. And most students practice what they like to play. I've got a great example. A couple years ago, I had a student. I think he might have been 8 years old. He was a guitar student. Now, he would come in, and this is what kept him playing guitar, and it eventually led on to other things on guitar. Every single week he came into his guitar lesson, he'd want to learn a different professional wrestler theme. Now, I'm not
awesome
a
guitar
very avid
playing in
watcher
those
of
wrestling
wrestling, but
themes.
I know that
the
once the
music is
wrestlers
awesome.
come out to
Really
yeah,
cool
for
riffs.
palm muting, Ultimate Warrior theme.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Oh, yeah. But well, and who can blame the kid for wanting to learn them, But he just cracked me up. But that was what kept him playing guitar, And I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, if it helps you practice, let's do John Cena today. Sure, let's
Whatever
do
gets
it,
him playing, right?
So yeah, I mean
Yeah.
and by it's a provocative question, Russ. I meant it's a good one, I mean, it really kind of gets me thinking, because I don't want to label what another teacher should or shouldn't do, because they have their own teaching style. And
Right.
like students that wouldn't mesh with my teaching style would absolutely mesh with someone else's. Yeah, exactly. So it's it's a big question, a big provocative question.
We like big
Yeah,
provocative
I know
questions.
myself personally. I mean,
You like
I know myself
the
personally.
BPQs?
Yeah. I mean, I know that like having.
We asked the BPQs here on Doc Rocker.
That's right.
I got to aim for more of them. It always gets a good discussion. I always enjoy it.
Man.
Oh, it's good.
So
But
I
no,
don't know. To wrap up my answer, I mean, that's just what works for me. I try and it's impossible to have everything in my repertoire and in my pool that I draw from for students. It's impossible to get everything, but I get as much as I possibly can in there, and then just work with the student on filling in the rest.
No, I understand completely. And I probably may have phrased the question a little too like, here, tell someone else what to do. But I think part of it is that from coming from like the public school side of it, because I mean that's where I spent a good amount of my time before I started teaching lessons as well, is that um, it's so much like not function over form, as much as like what's being chosen is meant for specific skill levels, and that's what the students learn. Sometimes what they want to learn factors into it, but you're teaching groups rather than teaching individuals. So that's, coming from that side of it, that was a big learning curve for me personally, because I'm like, oh, I actually have to like expand my knowledge of what I know for songs, because no longer am I choosing everything. The students have stuff they'll want to learn as well. And that took a little while to get used to, because, even though they're both teaching music, they are slightly incongruous in some sense.
Yeah,
And
they're definitely two
that's
very different
probably,
schools of thought.
oh yeah, absolutely.
They both
I mean,
have
I
their
know myself.
strengths and weaknesses.
Hmm. No, and I think that's the thing, is that every student's different. Every teacher has to approach every student differently as well.
Mhm.
I think when it comes time for the older music and how to approach it, myself personally, it depends on the age and the skill level of the student. There are times where I'll wind up like having a beginner student, pick out a particular tune for them to work on with the goal in mind for me that I'm trying to, teach them a particular skill to help build that core set. And I'll just pick it right off the bat. And, for older students who have been playing for a while, it's more or less like a teachable moment type of situation, where it's like, well, if you like this, we should try this. And, that kind of stuff, it works in to some extent. Or at least it's worked for me. I can't speak for everybody else, but I know that's my feeling about it. But I know a lot of what I've had to learn is to kind of get away from one for the other, and find places where the two ideas can be meshed together, and places where they need to be kept separate to some extent. And that's a learning curve for me, or for anybody else who's kind of coming from one side to the other. um, I guess I guess my last question with this really for you guys as a follow-up is like, is there a particular methodology that you think works well for working in older songs to a student's lesson or their curriculum, whatever you're using with them? Is there a particular way that you think works well as to getting those songs in there? Or is it just more of an organically flowing type of thing?
Well, I mean, I would certainly like more suggestions on how to do it, because the best way that I've found is just, going back to what we were discussing earlier regarding, just exposing someone to a song or an artist or something like that, and letting them, seeing if they take it for themselves, and that's I mean, it's kind of it. You have to present them with it, and then they either hook in or they don't, you know. And as far as like specific methodologies for introducing the older music, I mean, I'm all ears, aside from just letting them hear it and then showing them the sheet music and then maybe telling them a fun fact or two about the artist. I really, I don't have anything else really, and I'm always open to suggestions.
Okay. What do you
Yeah,
think, Dan?
for me, it's always been a more organic approach, like I said, because I kind of take that 50-50 mindset to, all right, half of it is I'm going to try to expose my students to lots of different things that they might not have heard before that can open up those possibilities to learn new skills. But the other half of it is stuff that they're into that, like, all right, you want to learn this song, I'll either find the sheet music for it for you, or I will make it if I can't find it online. And that's a little precursor to what we're going to talk about in a minute. But yeah, if there's like a definitive like method out there for teaching lots of like kind of having like a nice broad general overview of covering lots of older, like here's some classic rock, here's some pop rock, here's some big band, here's some Dixieland, if there's something like that, please tell me, because I can't find anything like that. Like there are just so many scattered resources online. I've found some great compilations over the years by particular teachers that do things where, like, all right, here's a compilation of like some maybe 15 to 20 popular songs from like the last 10 years that I use for all of my students. Like I find some decent compilations online that I kind of pull from, but a lot of times I'm stuck doing a lot of homework. I have students that want to learn particular pieces, and I'm always scrambling to try to find proper resources to teach those things properly. So yeah, that's always been a dream of mine, is to like maybe compile some kind of, maybe make kind of like a traditional like method book for teaching an instrument like piano or guitar. Those are my two specialties. But instead of something that's more kind of classically oriented, maybe something like, here's a guitar method book that's just rock songs, and here's like, here's classic rock, here's heavy metal, here's punk, and there's like a couple of bits of everything in there, and it's still put together in such a way that it teaches basic concepts to a beginner. I feel like something like that would be really awesome to have, and a really awesome resource to use for teachers out there with students. And I don't think there's something like that out there. If there is, I haven't found it. And I've been looking for years, and I can't find anything.
Very few and far between.
Yeah. So yeah,
What on that note too, on that note, I have been working out of a couple really good method books lately that I'm kind of new to them too, but do you mind if I bring those up?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And even after we're done, we can link them up and put them in our description so that people could check out links to find these books online.
Cool. Sorry, I'm Googling the title of the one I'm working out of. It's a kid's book, and it's great for kids like that are really young kids, like 4, 5, 6 years old, just starting on guitar. I mean, that's a really hard thing for a person that young to do, and this is a great book that makes it kind of fun and easy, and personal along the way too. That it kind of takes very gradual steps and keeps it light and fun the whole time. It's fantastic. Sorry, hold on a minute. This is kind of killing the vibe here, but I got to look up.
It's all good. I think I know where you're going with this. I remember you had mentioned something about this in the past before, in talking to you. So I don't remember the title of the books, but I remember you talking about them. So I'm curious to see what the titles are.
There it is. It's called Beginner's Guitar for Kids with Wyndon and Squiggy. And it's authored by a local guy by the name of Corey Klaus. Shout out to Corey. But he made a fantastic book where, you know, I mean, it makes it very personal because the kids write their name in the book, and you know they have to write out the parts of the guitar, and you know, write out the musical notes on the staff line. But it's all very gradual, baby steps, you know, and it's a fantastic young kids guitar book.
I've
Now the
never
other
heard of it.
ones
I'd love to check that out.
are actually it's amazing. Actually, someone just happened upon a copy, and someone I know just happened upon a copy of it and thought of me because you know they knew I teach guitar, and so they just gave it to me, and it's a gold mine. It's fantastic. Can't say enough good things about this book. It's fantastic. Beginner's Guitar for Kids with Wyndon and Squiggy by Corey Klaus. Now, the other ones are actually a series by Hal Leonard, and this is something that another teacher friend of mine showed me. They're called they're this aerobics series of instrument method books that Hal Leonard does. Like, for instance, there's guitar aerobics, and there's bass aerobics, and there's drum aerobics, and I have I'm working out of guitar aerobics, drum aerobics, bass aerobics, and ukulele aerobics. Now they have piano aerobics. This cracked me up. They have harmonica aerobics. And like the way that it's set up, it's kind of a week by week thing where, you know, week 1, for instance, we'll have exercises for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, each day of the week. You know, and each week kind of builds up upon the last, but it's not like your typical here, play the scale type of method book. Like they really make it musical, you know, and it's kind of amazed me how they don't actually use examples from songs, but they you know the exercises that they have, you know, they do in a very musical way. There's even play along tracks. Anyway, check out the you know, start at guitar aerobics or piano aerobics if you're looking for a new method book. It's not for the faint of heart either. It's for those students who you know have picked up a thing or two. Yeah, but they're great books.
Gotcha. Now, I think you make a great point too. Is that, you know, and between both of you, is that some of the method books, there's kind of like a big hole in terms of, you know, certain areas that can be used for teaching. On the private lesson side, things we teach particular skills that work for particular songs. It's not really there. It's on us to kind of find a way to do that. And I kind of wish there were more books like that. Most of the time, I wonder if it's a copyright thing. That's the reason why they don't do it.
Yeah, maybe.
But I kind of wish they were like that, because it would be super resourceful for those of us who are teaching, and for the students as well. And not only that, when you're working out of something that's going to gradually guide you through the skills as well, and it's using particular songs as an example, it's very organically put together for something that has obviously been put together and structured by somebody who wrote the book. And I think maybe I've seen one book like that. It was like a complete bass series. It was either, I think it might have been an Alfred, where in the back of the book, it at least had examples of different styles of bass playing by famous bass players, and gave examples of the songs and some of the bass line. But that was about the closest I had ever seen. And, you know, that's an interesting concept, but it was more like an index.
Yeah, I would love to see something like that fleshed out in a proper method book, and even
Oh,
scale it down to like 2 or 3 skill levels, and
Yeah,
like
that'd be
really make a,
awesome.
just like you would for like a classical setting, or you know, and like all these method books that have like, you know, all this, you know, there's like Christmas carols and traditional tunes and folk music, and that's great to get like a nice sampling, a lot of different things. But I feel like if there was something like a little more rock and pop oriented, but still did it in a way that was musically and educationally sound, it's definitely possible. And it just kind of blows my mind that something like that isn't already out there.
Like I said, I get the feeling the copyright thing is part of it, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm sure that has a huge part to do with it, just who holds the rights to the music, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if something like that were to be published, it would have to be, I mean, you know, I imagine that, you you know, like a publisher like Hal Leonard might own the rights to, you know, certain music, and
Mhm.
I'm drawing a blank for any other publishers right now, but you know, I wonder if it's like, you know, it just depends on who holds the rights to which music, or, you know, which, you know, making putting together that perfect compilation of songs according to, you know, curriculum. It might make that really
Well,
hard to do, you
no,
know.
I think you might be right though, because like a lot of those companies, have the rights to put sheet music for particular songs, whether it be Alfred or Hal Leonard or anybody else. They could
I
do something
loved
like
that. When I was a kid, like I was man, back in my day, there was no internet and we had to go down to the guitar store and pick up tab books.
that.
But seriously, those things were amazing. I had Duke a whole tab album you know, book of Dookie. I had Get a Grip by Aerosmith, whole album. I love those. Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness by the Smashing Pumpkins, and those were great, you know.
Yeah.
Even just having those, I mean, they were like full albums, and they do make like compilation, like artist compilation, you know, method books. You know, I shouldn't call them tab books, but
Oh,
you know,
does
for
it have like
instance,
a
I know one
like
student who's
map
got like you know, well, yeah, and there are a ton of compilation books out there, but none really specifically designed,
to
you
teach?
know, and engineered to, right, to you know, it, to kind of do what I was saying with the guitar aerobics books, kind of layer it, you know, lesson by lesson, basically, you know,
I would love to
with an
see it.
objective goal in mind. It would be
Yeah,
awesome.
Oh
absolutely.
yeah. I mean, not only from the fact that it gives us a resource as teachers too, but I think it is a way to get students more interested in that older stuff too, because they're learning. I know myself personally, I've experienced this in the public school setting. A lot of times, students will latch on to songs they played for concerts because they like the one that was chosen to play for the concert. And had that not been chosen or put in front of them, they wouldn't have known about it.
Mhm.
So I think that definitely helps with something like that too. It would be nice to see, but unfortunately, we got to do it ourselves.
Yeah,
So speaking
and
of
that leads
things
to our,
we are all
our next
complaining
segment,
about,
doesn't it?
so let's move to the final segment then, shall we? This is the good gripe segment of the show, where you get to get up on the box a little bit and talk about something that's might be a little bit irritating, something that bothers you in a particular practice, or something even like we were talking about with the method books. And we usually try and keep it specifically to the topic of what we're talking about. But if there's something that's really, really got your goat that you want to talk about, by all means,
Andy's ready.
go for it.
3 words.
Okay,
3 words.
go for it,
3
Andy.
words. Wire music stand.
Oh dear God. Oh, are we actually gonna have this debate? This is as bad as the one where I want to talk about how to the best way to melt recorders. Oh boy.
Let's talk
You
about
had to
wire
open-
music stands.
You had to open.
That makes me want to reforge my recorder.
This is like I feel like there should be a meme out of the part in Raiders of the Lost Ark where he looks down in the tomb and goes, "Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? Why did it be wires?
Right, yeah.
on the floor
Why
with
did it have
wires
to be
in?"
wire music stands?
God.
Exactly.
Oh, I remember
No,
when
but
it-
as you mentioned, all right, let's get on the soapbox and talk about what bothers us a little bit. I'm going through the list, and here's the thing, not to get all positive for a second, but we do have the best job on the planet.
Oh,
it is awesome. I have to
sure.
really be what are my gripes with my job? And that was the first one I hit, was those
I don't think
expletive
those-
deleted wire
those
music
abominations.
stands.
Yeah, they are the worst thing ever
Oh,
invented for a musician.
those
How
stands,
about
no
them?
matter no matter how hefty they
How
try.
about those wired music stands? They were just Seinfelding.
That's a pretty good Seinfeld
No
impression.
matter
I
how
like
hefty
that.
they try and make those things, they can only hold one
Thank
piece
you.
of music at a time, and it falls over the moment you put a second sheet.
A
on there.
piece of paper. You
Yeah.
can't
Oh,
even hold
exactly.
single
It
sheets
hates
of paper. Oh, they're
it
so lousy.
hates staying in the air, dude.
Yeah.
It's almost like it defies the laws of physics, these wire music stands, because a piece of paper is what, a gram, maybe half a gram,
Yeah.
in actual weight. as soon as it gets onto that music stand, it's like 20 pounds and it just falls right over. I don't understand it.
Yeah, or it just
But-
slides
Oh
right
my
off.
God.
'cause
Yeah,
it
I mean,
never
there's
gets
the little, there's the
angled
little
perfectly.
like, there's the little wire like, ew, hold the paper, the
Yeah,
thing
those
in
work,
place,
like-
you know.
Like blocks half
One
the
thing
music,
that-
you can't read it.
One thing that's cool, and it's rare that you see a marvel of a music stand like this, but if you can get a solid backed music stand with those little wires to hold the thing on, so you don't have to clip your snark onto the side of the page to
Oh yeah.
keep the book open. Yeah, they're rare, but I've only seen a few in the wild, but they're cool. Makes a
already
big
know that.
difference, man. Seriously,
in
no,
my
I mean,
ear.
I exaggerate for comedic effect, but yeah, wired music stands are a pain.
I think that pretty
think
much
they
started
should-
off with a hanger. I wasn't expecting that, but that was fantastic.
Yeah, I wasn't
You should
expecting that either,
reforge
honestly.
5 wired music stands into one good one.
Yeah,
Yeah. It'd probably take more than that.
yeah.
There's no metal on them. They're literally just like it's a wire.
It's
They
the
should really
least
make them
metal
illegal.
music stand.
Just make it like
Say
an
no more.
actual requirement to just have.
I
a
want the
solid
most
back
metal
music
music
stand.
stand.
Spend the extra $30 and get like a real solid stand that can,
Right, by
you
law.
know, stand and hold a nice book or two. So that you can actually
Mandated by
practice
Interpol.
uninterred. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Well, Danton, you have a grade for today? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny. Not so long ago, I was singing the praises of the internet for how useful it can be for discovering new music and for finding a wealth of information. But it just blows my mind how in 2020 it can be so difficult to find proper sheet music for certain songs, especially like really popular songs. Like I have some very oft requested pieces that my kids want to learn that I just can't find online. I can't find sheet music for it. If I can, it's either wrong or it you know, like it's a website that kind of clickbaits you into a monthly subscription. Like how hard is it to find sheet music for some of, and more often than not, more often than I care to admit, I find myself just going into my own notation program and writing out sheet music on my own and just making my own arrangements for my kids to use in their regular practice. Cause it's amazing how abysmal the internet is for proper, resources for this stuff, and I spend way too much time.
Roughly, yeah. If you look up a given piece of sheet music on the internet, I'd say it has about a 15% chance of being correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I'm being pretty liberal.
And
with
like,
that
and
estimate.
sometimes it's just so
Because
woefully
I think I've come
inaccurate.
across times where like songs were in like, a completely different key.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
stuff that's written in wrong keys, wrong time
I think I might-
signatures.
Piggyback off of that one though.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say one of the ones that always drives me nuts is the fact that like whenever I find a piece of sheet music for a particular song, whoever's writing it can't seem to help themselves but put the melody in the piano part as well, even though they have the vocal melody in its own separate line, which
Yeah.
is like
Like, why not just make
this
a
is
piano
not
solo
the
arrangement?
actual anything I'm supposed to be playing.
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
be nice,
some of
wouldn't
them
it?
are just so bad. It's awful.
But no, I mean, you just had to go and steal mine, didn't you, Dan?
Well,
It's all good though.
like I said, it's
It's all right. We'll have plenty of
No
those to
worries.
talk about over the life of the show.
it.
Well, gentlemen, any last thoughts on this topic?
I think we've covered a lot. I can't think of
Yeah,
a
we
yeah,
covered
I
it
really
too.
enjoyed our
single
conversation
thing.
today.
Yeah.
Not that I don't always, I really
Oh,
enjoy
yeah,
doing these
too.
segments, but yeah, Andy, it's been an absolute pleasure, man, to
Mhm.
have you on board with us and to, and especially in our case, we haven't really worked together in a long time. So it's been really good to see you after all this time.
You too,
and
man.
I hope you
I
and your
know. I
kids are
think
well.
the last time that we really got to get down was like maybe when we played that Firebird Festival with
in
with
the
that
in the
Dillard
before
band,
time.
you know, in the yes,
Long, long ago.
BC.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
like
before COVID.
2018, I think.
yeah, that was
That was the first
about 2
time
years
I
ago.
ever. That was an outdoor show. Yeah, that was an outdoor show. Like right around this time of year, actually. It was the first gig I ever drummed in like a full-on downwinter coat, hat, scarves, gloves, ski mask. Like it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I
It
had to wear
looked like,
fingerless gloves
I
to
hit
play
the
'cause it
ski
was so
slope and then
cold.
just skied
Stuffed
right
them
into
with
my
hand
drum set.
warmers.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. It was hard.
That was
it was
fun, but that was a pain in the ass to play. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It was
Guys
a
are
cool
having-
experience.
But
be
yeah,
outside
no,
marketing.
miss you, brother. And
Yeah, I miss you too,
in the after age, we'll definitely have to get down and chill proper for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally. I'm
I
looking
was
forward.
telling Russ, dude, Elder Scrolls Online just went on sale on Steam, and I wanted to get it so I could play with you guys, but it's not cross compatible. So
Oh, that's a bummer.
womp womp.
We'll go buy an Xbox and then you can play with us.
Yeah, I would.
Spend your
okay.
Christmas money.
Well,
Yeah.
I think I guess I'll draw the episode to close on that one then too, because that's a good point. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in for today's episode, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks.